Now, Veterans Affairs Minister Erin is promising to hire at least 200 employees in coming months. He joins us now with an update on the veterans file. So first of all, obviously, we're looking at 900 jobs here, Minister, that were cut. People are saying you're going to hire 200. Is that enough to replace everyone with a growing number of veterans requiring services?
Well, the interesting thing, Mercedes, is there's actually not a growing number of veterans. There's a pool of veterans with different needs and different demands. The story this morning goes back to 2009, and in the last few years, Veterans Affairs Canada has actually faced the overall number of veterans going down, and the number of modern Canadian Armed Forces veterans just in the last few years now outnumbering veterans of World War II and Korea. So that was really kind of a tipping point for the department. And so some of that led to reduction in some of the back office, some of the change in some of the ways things were done. So the overall numbers of veterans are going down. What we have learned in the last couple of years, and the Auditor General helped us analyze in terms of disability processing for mental health claims, is newer veterans tend to have distinct needs. The rise in mental health claims and some of the support needed for our men and women in that area means that a mental health case is much more complex than a traditional war veteran case. So when we're trying to go from a case manager ratio of 1 to 40, and my announcement this week said we're going to move to 1 to 30, we're recognizing that no two cases are alike, and some of the rising cases in the last number of years are much more complex, and we recognize that. There's been strain on our case managers, so we're trying to reduce the threshold on that. So it's a unique situation where the overall number is going down, but the new cases coming in are more complex, which is why we're adding over 200 on the front lines, both in the disability claims processing and in the case management side. It will be at least 200, likely more.
Now, I want to be fair to you. You weren't the minister at the time when these decisions were made, but when Canadians see veterans struggling to get the care that they want and they need, and they hear that there was staff that were cut, that there's funds that weren't spent, they ask why and how that possibly could have happened.
Well, part of my role, as I've said, I've also trying to bring a discussion of the new needs and some of the changes much better, because we need to have an informed and respectful discussion. I think I said that on my first program with you, Mercedes. So some of the changes we've made is we've actually eliminated tens of thousands of transactions with the department. An example is veterans used to have to send in bills for snow clearing, that sort of thing. In the last few years, we've taken that away and actually gone to approving and then providing funds and not have this paperwork burden. So that's some of the back office stuff that has been removed. We've also learned from vets like Paul Franklin, who will be on your show after me, can we retool some of the forms that are sent to veterans? Can we eliminate them entirely if it's a renewal of a program? Or can we extend the period? So the form Paul raised to us was a Veterans Independence Program renewal. It used to be a renewal period of 1 year. I've already moved and said it's going to now be 3 years. So these are less transactions for the bureaucracy, the department, but we're also trying to make the forms less onerous on the veteran, less stressful. So we're changing the way we do things. This means more on the front lines and less back office.
Erin, I'm curious to know what the mood is like with veterans now. It was pretty adversarial when you took over the file, Minister, initially. And some people, you had a chance to meet with them on Monday. You had a bit of a stakeholders meeting here in Ottawa. How did that go? What are veterans happy with? What still needs work?
I think it was a tremendous session at the Stakeholder Summit. We had several dozen groups represented. We had a discussion of some of the changes and some of the new benefits and programs I've rolled out. But then the afternoon was really dedicated to the various stakeholders groups to put issues on the table. And we had actually working sessions talking about some of the changes, some of the positives, but some of the challenges, and there's things we still have to work on. One of the rewarding things I found, and most of the attendees said this, was there was a better understanding that groups may do things in different ways. So some of the traditional groups like the Legion and Anavets and others may do things one way, and some of the online support groups may do things another way. But overall, everyone's trying to help. And now we're trying to leverage the power of everyone to work alongside our new program. So I found it a positive day, and you'll have to talk to some of the participants to see if they shared my optimism from it.
We just have a few seconds left, but I'm curious to know the NDP is proposing something in recent days, more long-term care beds for veterans. Is that something the government's willing to consider?
Well, you know, I heard this morning. The interesting thing is Peter Stouffer and the NDP are raising this issue. You know, he's been an MP for a long time. I was in the military at a base in his riding, so that's how long he's been around. He knows that in the 1960s and 70s, the Veterans Affairs hospitals that were stood up before the provinces had health care were transferred to the provinces, and we work with the provinces on health and long-term care. He very much knows this. The real question is, when there was 4 years of NDP government in Nova Scotia, did Peter Stouffer and Robert Chisholm, Megan Leslie, people like that, did they work with their partner, the Premier, to try and say, your provincial facility, because the Camp Hill Hospital is a provincial facility, did they want to make more access to veterans through their provincial long-term care program? The answer to that question will show whether they're using this as a new sort of political line. There's great care provided for veterans of all ages, but it's evolved over time because the first hospitals by Veterans Affairs were opened after the war when the provinces didn't have health care, and in the 60s and 70s we changed and started partnering with the provinces.
Minister, unfortunately we are out of time, but thank you so much for coming in today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mercedes.